everybody, it's Annette Green. Welcome back. This is week, 10, I believe, in 2024, and I do weekly crafty videos, and sometimes they're planner pages, and sometimes they're 3D things you make out of paper, and sometimes they're art projects. Today it's about using this little mini pancake maker and embossing powder to make little charms and other things, but mainly I wanted to make some little teeny tiny charms for my junk journal, for my traveler's notebooks and things like that. So like for example, I had created this little TN project for a class, and I have these little charms on here, and those are great. You can go out and buy charms, but a lot of times we have dies and stamps and shapes, maybe little wood shapes, things like that we can use. We already have them, and we can make little charms out of those things. So like for example, here's another little TN that I'm starting on, finally trying to catch up and get some scrapbooking done, of a cruise that I took last, gosh, what was it, November 2023. And so I grabbed a bunch of dies that I had, and I made these little guys from dies that I have in my stash, and those are little shrinky dinks. Remember shrinky dinks? Shrink plastic. So I just cut out the shrink film with some dies that I already had in my stash, and of course they shrink down. But instead of using the oven like a lot of us are used to with the shrink film, or like a heat embossing tool, which kind of makes them curl and you have no control, it's kind of hard to control them, that's what this little mini pancake maker is all about today. By no means my idea at all. It came up on my feed on YouTube. Marion Emberson has quite a few videos that she's done playing with different ideas with this thing, but it's just like the littlest little pancake maker. And I guess there's a larger one, but this is like barely $10 at Walmart. And I have cut a circle of parchment paper for in there because that's what they say to do. And then you can just heat stuff up in there. It's really fun. So we're going to do that today. And I have some examples of things I've just been playing around with just to get started and to get comfortable with how it works. And I've just been pouring embossing powders of different kinds. These are all silver and gold and like a platinum color that I just kind of poured in there and then shut the lid and let it do its thing and flow all over the place. It's really cool. I don't know what I would do with it. If you had like steel rule dies, which I have absolutely none anymore, all I have are the thin metal dies like this. I don't have any that are the big thick Sizzix ones or any of those anymore, but I believe they would cut through this nicely. And because I used a combination of embossing powders plus the ultra thick embossing powder, it made this a little like pliable. When I didn't use as much, it did want to crack. So, I mean, it still looks kind of cool. This, if I hadn't cracked it, this would be really cool on an art journal page or something. This has really got a lot of stuff going on in it too. So that was a fun experiment. And then just taking a regular die cut, of course, just like you would do, and put your Versamark or your embossing clear stuff on there. I just dipped it in the Versamark pad, but you can use that as well to pounce on there. And then put your embossing powder, and rather than laying it down here and trying to hold on to it and burn your fingers and blow the stuff everywhere, you just stick it in that guy. It's really cool. Another fun thing that you can do is you can take chipboard. Now I have no blank chipboard sheets, pieces, shapes of any kind anymore. I used to have a ton of that stuff. And you might be able to find packages of shapes cut out already out of chipboard, but I just grabbed some chipboard from 49 and Market. This is, what is this called? Sunburst chipboard set. I haven't used much of it at all, and I just thought, well, you know, I could just emboss and make it more enamel-y looking, so that was fun. I just used like 2 layers of that ultra thick embossing enamel, and now it looks like an enamel piece, kind of plasticky. It's kind of cool. Either way it looks nice, but that's something you can do. Or if there was a shape in here, let's say it was like more of a Christmassy shape of a pine tree or Christmas tree, but you wanted to just use it as a tree in a journal and you didn't want it to look so Christmassy, you could use embossing powder that is totally opaque and cook it right on top of that and make it look like a whole different piece. So that's just another idea. And because I don't have any chipboard shapes, I tested out like just die cutting this starfish 3 times out of cardstock, gluing them all together, and I didn't know, was that going to work when you stuck it in there because it's glue? Is it going to come apart? Is it going to twist? But it held up just fine. I used art glitter glue to glue 3 layers together, you know, all the way out to the edges, let it dry really well, and then I did some embossing on top of that. I mean, it's kind of like an embossing glaze. I think I used Ranger's pumice stone. Yeah, this pumice stone color, which is, the glazes are sort of translucent, so you know, you can kind of see some of the texture from that dye in there, little starfish parts and pieces. Okay, so I also tried a wooden Scrabble tile. I have a whole bag of them. I bought them on Amazon. I made some Christmas like ornaments a couple years ago. And again, I used some of the glaze, antique linen glaze over the top, just to antique it down. I don't think I could get a crocodile to punch through this at all. It's way too thick, but you could put a hole up in here with maybe a drill, a crafting drill, and have that be a little charm on something. I do have some wood shapes somewhere around here in a baggie. Just like flatter wood shapes. Those work well. The thinner the better. This was a little too thick and didn't want to do well here, and I ended up heat tooling it the old-fashioned way. But a nice flatter wood shape, which I hear they have plenty of these types of things at the Dollar Tree. I didn't go there. I'm just using what I have. But I had some circles and I punched 2 holes in it with the crocodile. I put some color on there with some alcohol markers and then some of that ultra thick embossing powder, like 2 layers. And now it's a shiny, cute little button. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the shrink film really quick. But first I just wanted to show you, you know, shrink film does come in colors. This one is black, of course. This is a shiny clear, and then there is more of a, they call it a sanded one. I'll show you the packaging and I'll give you the exact name. But this is how they turn out if you color them on the back side on those clear ones and then the black. I just think, like, you know, gosh, if you do some pretty little flowers and leaves and things, they would be great in a junk journal. So here's my junk journal peeking out. You've seen it maybe in previous videos where we did these paper clips and I did a walkthrough of the journal, but you could dangle some of these really pretty charms all throughout your junk journal. So they could hang off of this tag right here, maybe a little flower or a leaf thing. Some of these paper clips I have already added a charm to. A couple of charms, you could put your little shrink embossed pieces in there. You know, you could add them everywhere. I've got all kinds of beads and things going here, but that's something you could definitely add to a junk journal. Okay, so here's our shrink film. I know that there's a glare here and I've got all this stuff in the way. I do want to show you the box for the mini griddle. My mini griddle. 5-inch plates. It's 4 inches on the inside, so a little bit smaller than what they say there, but Walmart, yep, cheap. Okay, so shrink film. This I got at Hobby Lobby. I think Walmart carries it as well, Amazon I'm sure. It's not called Shrinky Dinks anymore as far as I can tell. This is by Graphics and it's called shrink film. So here's the clear one here. You get 6 sheets in a package for $5.50, $5.49. In the clear, that was the price. Now the super sanded gives it more of a kind of a duller look. It doesn't look as shiny. I think I like that the best, honestly. This was $4.99 for 6 sheets also. And then the black was reduced for $2.49. I don't know how much I'd use the black. I wish they had like a lighter, almost like this, but in like a vintagey brown color. I think that would be really cool. Okay, so a couple things you need to know is you need some parchment paper, baking paper, whatever you call it where you live. This is from Sam's Club. It came 2 of these big boxes to a pack. It'll take me a lifetime to go through all this parchment paper. But you can find it. You can find it in your grocery stores and stuff. And then I was going to use a die to cut this out, but I didn't have one exactly 4 inches. So I did grab this die from Elizabeth Craft Designs. It's the Stitched Circles. And this one here, I believe it was when you measure the inside lip, it's exactly 4 inches. So I just trace this and I cut about 3 or 4 at a time with scissors. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just something you have to line your little pancake maker in there. You see it? Because you're going to be putting embossing powders and things that'll get melty and stuff. So otherwise it's going to just stick right in there. Now the top is also a Teflon coated, but it doesn't stick, and that's funny to me. It's like, if it doesn't need to stick to the bottom, how does it not stick to the top? I don't know. I didn't make the original video. Okay, so what I've done, and we're going to play around here, is I have grabbed a circle die of that same set I just showed you, a little smaller. Okay, I cut out some of the super sanded shrink film, and then I grabbed a circle stamp of mine from last spring's release, the Honeybee set. I'll link everything below, but I'm going to grab a piece of scrap paper and stays on. Now let's see, I could use black, but I think I want to use brown. I have both, and I've tried both. I like the brown. Gives it a little vintage look. Okay, so you're just gonna ink up your stamp and stamp it on your shrink film. All right, I gotta get this right under me. Hold on a second. Okay. I don't know, I don't think it's gonna matter too much, the you know, the stitch that's in this die of the circle. There's a little stitch that cuts out. Pretty. See the little stitching? I don't know what that's going to do when it shrinks. I mean, I don't care if it's gone when it shrinks. I think it's just going to shrink away. That could have been stamped a little darker, but we're just going to wait and see. Now, what you can do is you can color this. I'm not going to with this one, just to get started and show you examples. But that is what I have done over here with some of these little guys. So you can see my little flower one. That's the shiny one. That's the more matte one. So you can see the difference. But I have colored on the underside. It looks a little funky under there. This one got some paper stuck to it. I mean, this was all experimental time here. And then this one is a leaf. Colored with the same markers, alcohol markers, same colors and everything, but you can see the difference that you get with the shiny clear and the more kind of frosted, sanded shrink film. So that's had a second to dry. I'm just going to throw it right on in here and shrink it. So I say, Siri, set a timer for 2 minutes, and she's going to do that, hopefully. Siri was kind of tired. She didn't hear me. One of the tools you might want to have handy is something metal to get the stuff out of here, because that is very hot, what's in there, and you don't want to just stick your fingers in there and grab it when it's ready. If you don't have something flat like this that's metal, some metal tweezers, definitely not plastic anything. Also, when we do some embossing stuff, it might be nice to have a little spoon. This is my Nuvo tool here. It's pretty handy. It's got a scoopy thing on one end and a little spoon on the other. I use that to pull out my embossing powders. And when we do a lot of the ultra thick embossing powders, sometimes you get a little extra around what you've die cut. And so these little, I think these are called, what are these called? Micro scissors? I'll link them below. They're from Elizabeth Craft Designs, but man, they are the best little scissors to get in there and snip away anything extra as far as that thick embossing powder when it flows over the edges. Okay, I just took a peek. It's not ready. But something else you might want to have is a non-stick craft sheet on your table. I do a lot of the embossing and stuff with the powder on a piece of paper and just dump it back in the jar. But when I pull the stuff out of the hot little pancake maker, I put it right to my non-stick craft sheet because it can take the heat while it cools. Okay, time's up. Let's check it. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, it's still a little wonky. looks like an oval. It didn't stay circular. Okay, experiment with me. It turned into an oval. Look at that. That has not ever happened to me. Quite bizarre. All right, so I'm going to try that again in a minute, but what I like to do is I take that and one of my clean parchments while it's cooling, and I just kind of press it down on my nonstick craft sheet to flatten it out. You could put it back in the heat if it's just totally resisting, and mine is. So I'm going to put it back in there for a bit. Why it became an oval, I have no idea. But while it's cooking some more, I'm going to do a bee, and I'm not going to use any kind of dye. We're going to try this. My black StazOn is really kind of dry, but I tested it before. It worked. So I'm going to just get this stamped, and then we'll check our little thing in the maker. Whoa. Okay, lovely. Let that dry a bit. It doesn't take long. Yeah, it's still an oval. Okay, whatever. I don't know why that happened. You know, you do get that a little bit with shrink film. It says right on there, you know, it's not going to be a perfect replica, but I've never had it turn into an oval. Could I still use it? Absolutely. I think it's pretty cool. And I definitely would color it first now that I see it, but I like it. Okay, just because I don't want to give up, I'm going to do this one again, and I'm not going to die cut it with the circle die. I want to see if it was because of all those little holes that it made it behave funny. So I'm going to test that in a minute. I just re-stamped it. It's still a little wet. We'll go to my bee now, and I got a mushroom over here too. We're going to play with that. So I've stamped on this side, and if I were going to color it, I would flip it over. So I think I will add a little bit of color. Let's just make it a pink bee. Why not? Got little alcohol markers here, very, very faint. I'm just going to do it all pink. Love that squeaky sound, right? Okay, I won't go for the legs and all that stuff. So that's got to dry just for a second. But what I'm going to do, because the shrink film cuts very easily with scissors, this one I'm going to sort of fussy cut, but not too fussy. Because I know that the shrink film, when it shrinks, you know, you don't want too many skinny little details. Like if you look at the this guy, the ship's wheel, those little intricate pieces, they did okay, but they do kind of want to twist and turn when they're being heated and kind of get distorted a little bit. So you don't want too detailed of a die cut. So I'll cut this out. She's all colored. And I will say that with my new release coming up, I'm just thinking of some of the things that are in there that are going to be absolutely perfect for this technique. So I'll have to come back. I'll have to have some finished things made and show you what I did with them and put them in my junk journal. Okay, so here we go. It's better when my hand isn't there, I think. All right, I'm going to throw that in there and give it 2 minutes. Okay. Oh, the bee is so cute. Can you see it? They generally don't like to mess with it too much right away, but I want to get that a little flatter. Okay, super cute. I love the little bit of pink. Can you see the little bit of pink? Really cute. Now, of course, what I should have done, and I did remember to do on some of these, is you need to punch a little hole if you want to make this into a charm and dangle it off of something so you can get like a jump ring in there. Just for demonstration purposes though, this is really cute. One thing I do want to say about die cutting shrink plastic is it is not an easy task. It can be done. Unless it's one of those steel rule dies like I talked about earlier. So if you have just your metal dies, like mine, the thin, the combination that I found that worked best for me is my Sizzix magnetic platform, because I have a Vagabond 2 machine. I have a little shim of a piece of file folder here. You see that? I always have that there, no matter what plates I'm using. I don't know why, it just seems to be more effective. And then this guy is my precision base plate, which is magnetic. It sucks right onto the magnetic plate, but it is not magnetic as far as this goes. So the dies do slide all over the place. You do have to tape things together. But that's what I found worked best for me. Okay, I'm setting my timer. I'm popping in this guy, which I just kind of cut with scissors this time instead of a die with the little stitch holes in it. And then I just set 2 minutes on my timer. That's just a loose guide. I will check it several times. Okay, so here's my little mushroom. Can you see it? It's really hard to see because it's nighttime. I've waited so long to make this video today. But I have colored the back side with alcohol markers again, and I'm just using my Olo markers. A couple different colors. And this is the sanded again, so I'm going to lay that there to dry completely. I got my little bee, super cute. Let's check this out. Oh, it's still an oval, so bizarre. That is so weird. Why is that happening? I'm going to have to ask somebody why that happens. Maybe Marion has some insight. To ask her. Frustrating. I want that to be round. It is a little more round, but still, now it's an oval going that direction. So, gosh, so bizarre. Okay, well, we'll look into that. All right, I'm going to take my little mushroom again, just alcohol marker on the sanded shrinky dinks. Let's get Siri back in here with her 2 minutes. Okay, and meanwhile, I did die cut my large bee from my layered honey bee die set from last spring. See, I'm using all my older stuff. It's not that old, but it's still usable. But I am using it now, just awaiting the go on, whoops, when I can show my new release. So what we're going to do with this guy is we're going to grab some embossing powders and do some layering up. So I'm going to grab some ultra thick and speckled egg. This is, you know, Distress Embossing Glaze. And then I think I have Tattered Rose. That would be pretty. And Antique Linen. Okay, I think I might work with those three and see what I can get. And then the clear. I'm not going to like double it up, triple it up. This is heavyweight cardstock, so I think it's going to hold up just fine. We'll see. All right, let's take a peek. Oh my gosh, that's pretty cute. Pretty cute. I'm going to get it flattened out all the way. You do lose some of the detail when you use the sanded. I think it's a weird marking on the back. I think because I had something on my little parchment paper. It's a little muted. I think I'm going to do that again with the glossy, the clear. All right, here we go. I am doing the colored side down. I wonder, I think you have to. I don't think you want the colored side up. By the way, you don't want to ever eat from this pancake maker now that you're using it for this. Definitely not. It's cheap. If you want to use a little mini pancake maker to make pancakes, then just buy a second one because it really should be designated just for your crafting. Okay, it's only been about a minute and I took a peek and it looks done already. So maybe I'm overcooking some of these. It looks pretty darn cute. I think I like the glossy one better. Yeah, that's really cute. Really cute. Oh gosh, adorable. Now I wish I had punched a hole in the top of that first so I could make that into a little charm. But I can still add it to something. Really cute. Okay, now we're going to work on the bee. So I've got her already cut out. Let me get a fresh piece of paper here. Okay, and remember when you're working with dies that you aren't going to shrink, or even if you're going to shrink them, They can't be any bigger than the pancake maker, of course, so it's got to be less than 4 inches, which I know my bee is. Now, you saw me almost going to pounce the Versamark on the bee, but you really shouldn't do it that way. I have found it just kind of tries to pick it up every time because this stuff is like glue, this Versamark stuff. So I'm just gonna press, 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 and then I have to move her because the bee is bigger than the pad. So I just want to get a nice, fairly even coat of this on my bee. So I'll just keep checking it. I think I got it. Even if I don't, you know, it could have sort of a nice organic look to it. All right, let's start. I think I'll start with a lighter color first. Now, you could put this in there and then dump the stuff on it. I don't like to do it that way. I prefer to do it here because it doesn't gunk up my parchment paper too much in there. I got the fan on in here. Do you see that stuff blowing? You need to be careful of that. Okay, and because this is embossing glaze, again, it's going to be a little translucent. So I'm not going to cover it completely. This bee, I'm just going to pick her up and shake off some excess. Okay, see how it's not, you know, fully covering every little bit? That's okay. Okay, she's not in the paper. Okay. All right, we'll give that just a minute. Now, because it isn't shrink film, it may not take as long, so I'm going to watch the time and put this back and think about my next color. Something else I like to have handy is just like a Swiffer thingy to get that last little bit of that powder off my surface. And I think I'm gonna see how it looks to add a little bit of this speckled egg next. So I'm gonna take a peek over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, another reason why I think Marion Emberson, why she put the embossing powder right on whatever she was working on in the pancake maker is because as soon as you pull that off of there, it starts to cool immediately. And if you don't want to have to keep adding like Versamark every time while it's still hot and the embossing glaze that's already there is still hot, then you can add it. So let's just do it. I said I wasn't gonna, and hopefully you can kind of see over here what I'm doing, but I'm just gonna kind of sprinkle a little here and there. See how the bee is starting to come up a little bit because it's starting to cool. So we'll just do a little of that, see what happens. I have no idea. You know what, I think I'm changing my mind. Rather than Tattered Rose on top of those colors, I picked up Rusty Hinge here for the next color. Ooh, that's gonna be fun. Now let's see how we're doing. Ooh, that's cool. Can you see it? My cord is only so long over here, so I do have to be a little careful pulling on it. Let's see. Put a little Rusty Hinge. I like this little spoon. You can somewhat control it. You could always pick this up with your fingers and pinch it and drop it that way. Okay. Ooh, that's fun. Alrighty, let's try that for a minute. Not even. It does go very quickly when you're not doing the shrink film. Now we've got some white here. I don't know if I'm going to use that. Marion used this really cool, I don't know what she called it, some kind of white. She was using all WOW products, which I don't have any of anymore. Used to. Is this from WOW? No, this is Ranger. Anyway, cool embossing powders with flakes and things happening and all the layers that she was doing. I really encourage you to check hers out. I'm going to leave that on there for a second. I still have Vintage Photo over here, but I don't think I want that. What do I got back here? Bundled Sage. That could be interesting. Yeah, maybe I'll put some of that. Oh, see, that's pretty. Kind of a nice sagey green. I have kind of a greenish blue going already, but cannot hurt to try a little more. And then we're going to do our ultra thick on top of that. Now, Marion did use a toothpick, kind of skewer stick, and what she did, I'm going to try it, I don't want to mess it up, but she rolled it into her Versamark, and that makes it sort of resistant to getting all stuck in the stuff when she was swirling it around over here. I don't know if mine's thick enough to swirl. I think it's going to take the ultra thick to allow that to happen. Yeah, I'm not even going to try it yet. I'm going to get a nice thick layer of this on here. Well, not a nice thick layer. I might do several layers because I think that's easier and more effective to do it that way than try to cook a whole bunch of this on here at one time. You can layer and layer and layer this stuff on. Okay, give that a minute. Okay, let's take a peek. Oh, looks cool. All right, I'm going to do some more. This just gives it that nice, thick, shiny layer. And I just was looking through my embossing powders while I was waiting for this layer to cook, and I found I had a couple of these baked texture. Let's see, I have this one here, spiced candy aroma. It smells like spiced candy. It's just this really vibrant, pretty red, just flat, okay? But then I've got these two. These are by the art and design of Seth Apter. Seth. Yes, I remember. So I have tons of this. I love it. This is, looking for the name. Oh, Vintage Beeswax. Ha, my favorite. And then this one is Patina Oxide. So this will just do similarly to the antique linen, except it's got these big, huge crystals, so it gives it like a varied look to it. That, I believe, is what I used on the Scrabble tile, actually, when I was talking about that. So it gives it a really cool vintage variegated look. But you see this Patina Oxide has some other flakes and things in there. I'm going to try some of that. Look at that. And so I'm going to roll my stick in here just to get it sticky again and take a peek. Okay, looking cool. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this and drop. Oh God, this is beautiful. Ooh, look at it go. Oh my gosh. So that's like a copper color in that patina. Oh, so pretty. I'm afraid to swirl it. I don't want to mess it up. It's looking so good. But you could do that. You could swirl it if you wanted to move some of this around. That's why we got the stick wet with the Versamark. That's looking very cool. Yeah, you could, you know, that one piece I showed you earlier with the golds and the silver, that was really, really heavily swirled with the stick. You can see all that going on in there. Really cool effect. So let me close that. And I'm excited. I think this is where we'll end it too after this is done, because it's getting late. I'm not going to add it to anything, any of these charms just yet. That'll have to be a future video. Hopefully when my new release comes out, I will do another one of these and actually put these to physical use in my journals, and I'll share that with you. Let me take another little peek. Oh my gosh, this has got to be my favorite one. I think it's done too. It looks good. All right, so I can move my paper now entirely and get this out of here. I'm not going to rush this at all. I'm going to take the whole parchment piece over here and just let it cool and dry, because it's super thick right now. And by the way, all that stuff that lands on the parchment, if you let that cool and you pick that bee off of there and all that other stuff is there, if you just let it cool completely, you can scrape it right off. I have used the same parchment sheet over and over and over and over. I've been scraping it off. This one's getting a little bit worn, but I'm still using it from time to time. So that's definitely something you can do. Oh, that's gorgeous. Okay, she's cooled. Gently, gently. Okay, so you see all that extra stuff in there? That's where I was talking about. You can get in there with your scissors. I wouldn't tear at it too much, but I do want to show you. This is cooled. This definitely just scrapes right off. Oops, I just used the point too much on my scraper and ripped a hole in it, but you can see that all the waxy stuff comes right off of there. And if I hadn't ripped it, I could use it again. So here I am with my little scissors, little trimmers. I'll put the proper name below. This is why I like to take it out and do it on paper. This is a little bit fussy, but I don't know if I'd want to keep handling it over and over. I feel like I just liked piling it on and shutting the lid, and to me this doesn't bother me too much to have to clean it up like this. The outcome is really cool. Super happy with that. This would be beautiful on an art journal page or even on the cover of a journal. So I'm going to fuss with that. I'm going to cut off all the rest of that, and I'll be back to say my goodbyes. Okay, there's my bee. Isn't she just gorgeous? I just love it. Gosh. Oof, fun. All right, well, that is it for me today. I want to thank Marion Emberson, for the fun idea. You know, it made me get out my embossing powders, which is something that I don't use very often, and I don't use my heat tool very often, but now I've got this little pancake maker, so that's what I'll be using straight from here, because that just makes it so much neater, cleaner, easier, you know, hands off. It's wonderful. So I hope you give this a try. I would love to hear it if you do. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week in the next crafty video.